Hi, I'm Jules, your practical mystic. I mentor and empower people to uncover and rediscover their soul's purpose and to create and live a life of meaning through practical ceremony and ritual. They folks can live more congruently with their values and beliefs and yeah, their life purpose. So, um, yeah, talk a little bit about ceremony today. So it's can be such a feel like a big word and evoked with a lot of mystery, and can feel very specific to a faith based on whatever your experience is. Ceremony can have association with a particular faith or wisdom tradition that you may have experienced. But in general, ceremony is a ceremony and ritual are tools that humans can use to step out of the everyday sort of mundane task of learning and into kind of a different reality, so that the information and the experiences that they are having reach us on a cellular level, on a very different level. So I'll give you an example. If you've ever been in a class, maybe university or other kind of school class, and you're learning in this very kind of traditional way, and you might be really engaged in the subject matter, but you experience yourself kind of just listening to whatever it is, writing notes. Perhaps you get up and do an activity or something, but it's all sort of like in a way that you're very familiar with, and you're very and you've done this kind of a thing before. Ceremony has the ability to shift us out of that kind of boring way to learn and into a fully embodied experiential absorption. When we experience ceremony and ritual, intentional, I will say intentional ritual, because some folks talk about ritual as being like the things that you do every day, but that's not actually what intentional ritual is. When we experience ceremony and intentional ritual, it actually imprints our brain in a different way, so that we are listening to the messages on a deeper level. Another way that this happens in things like movies and media also impacts our brain in this similar and yet different way. And dream time has the ability to do that as well. There's all sorts of research about how ceremony and ritual gives us this body wisdom, this body memory of an experience that the kind of sitting in a classroom and listening to a lecturer does not have that same experience. So what's powerful about this, and when we're doing work with the unseen world, and we're doing work with angels and guides and ancestors and allies, and we're evoking a higher power and acknowledging that what's happening on this plane, on this level, isn't the only thing that's happening. And we enter into this space, this ceremonial, sacred container. If we enter it in a safe and intentional way, we're more open to receiving the wisdom and the messages, because we've set this we've set ourselves up to make that happen. If you've ever experienced being in, for example, your own wedding, if you had a wedding where there's a ceremony involved, if you have been to something like a football game or a sports game that has a specific rhythm to it, where there's like an opening song perhaps, or there's a particular dance, and then there's all sorts of the game happens as whatever would happen within that container, and then there's a midpoint. Something traditionally happens at the midpoint and then at the end, and there's that container, that the heightenedness of this experience draws you in, and it impacts your body in a very unique way. It's different if you are just hearing about the game afterwards, or even if you're watching it on TV. It has a different feeling to it than actually being there. There's also this thing that happens energetically when we set a container, a sacred container, in a ceremony and a ritual. The people in it, we're sharing our energetic field. We share our energetic field with anyone who is near us, unless we put up really amazing, strong protection. So we've agreed to come into this place and share our energetic field, and it heightens things like intentions, it heightens things like prayers and dreams, it heightens things like the meanings of the information that's coming through. You see this talked about a lot in many different faiths and wisdom traditions. For example, people in many faiths say there's power in prayer, in the community praying together. Well, that's true because it amplifies all of those intentions and all of those prayers. And the same is true for surrounding yourself with the people in your life. And this is why a lot of everyone from religious leaders to self-help gurus always say, get yourself around the people who you want to be like, or who you can be yourself with, because they will amplify you. You will all amplify each other. It's not like you're dragging the energy off of one person. You will amplify each other, raise the vibration for each other. And the same is true in the opposite way. If you surround yourself with people who are maybe not looking out for their own highest good, and let alone your highest good, that is amplified because you are all together. You might have seen this in a crowd where there's like a disturbance, then the crowd just kind of builds and builds and builds. Same thing for excitement. It builds and builds and builds. And this all in this container of being in each other's energetic fields within a ceremony or ritual space. We enter into ceremony and ritual spaces a lot more than we even realize. For example, in a classroom, if you are somebody who is going to school, or perhaps you're a parent and you're taking your child to a classroom, there's certain ceremony and ritual that happens in the classroom throughout the day, and they're entering into this space and they're working off of the energy of one another. And that's why it's super important and really a good practice whenever you're entering into a space where people are doing some work. It's really important to just acknowledge that you are coming in there within your own energy, and you are entering into a space where there's already energy happening and there's already things at work. And so just entering in cautiously and just observantly until you see how you can kind of interact with whatever it is that's going on. So ceremony and ritual has this amazing ability to move and heal and transform and transmute energy so quickly and so effectively and efficiently. It is an amazing tool that we can use to really access the unseen world. We use ceremony a lot in practice for setting intentions each day, for healing past traumas, even for healing the traumas that our ancestors may have felt, or generations back may have been experiencing. And this has a ripple effect on all down the lineage from our ancestors all the way to present day. We use ceremony to bring back, if we feel like we're depressed, or we're anxious, or we're feeling like there's just kind of, we're missing pieces of ourselves. We use ceremony to call back those pieces of ourselves back into our body so that we can operate from here forward the very best person that we can possibly be, more aligned with our soul's purpose. So ceremony and ritual have a lot of different ways to help us as individuals and to bring us together as community. And the things you just want to notice about ceremony and ritual, and ways to make them really effective. And we will go over some ways that you can do your own ceremonies and rituals at home. But for now, you just want to remember that there's always a clear beginning and a clear ending, however you want to have that happen. And what happens in between all has to do with your intention. So if you don't set a clear intention that, this is a safe space where only the good and true and beautiful come through, then it kind of opens it up for anything to go. And that's sometimes what we see in like sporting events. I'll just use that example again. The intention is set to have a fun game. Well, fun can mean whatever to a lot of different people, and so you get a mix of chaotic energy in there, and some can be really amazing and fun, and sometimes it can get really heated and pretty charged and not in the most beautiful way possible. So just notice that setting the intention for your ceremony is of the utmost importance. Clear beginning, clear end, and then whatever happens in between happens. So a lot of folks have more questions about ceremony, and it is a subject I love talking about. I consider myself a ceremonialist and a ritual leader, and it's one of my deep passions. I invite you to ask me anything that you'd like. Please share this out if you think that there's anybody who would be interested in it, and pop me a question down below if you'd like to learn more about ceremony and ritual, or anything that I do talking with the unseen world. Please let me know. You can also shoot me a private message if that's better for you. And I hope that you have a beautiful day. Thanks.